fact, because this is being recorded for YouTube, I should probably stop playing Miracle of Sound as well. So, hello everyone, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this stream of Hearts of Iron 4, where we are playing a continuation of yesterday's Kaiserreich Weekly game. This is Group B, and there have been a couple of changes. We will talk about the different nations...
Hey, Mordred, you need to ready up.
Oh, sorry. Done. We will talk about the different nations in just a moment. First of all, though, it was Mario who just joined. Mario is, I guess, playing as Fentian, and that was the last Mario. Oh, please don't say I've started with no UI. Oh, god damn it. This has never happened in multiplayer. Okay, let's go and bring everything over. So, the first thing that we should talk about, I know that wars and things are going on, but I feel like we should definitely do another introduction to all of the players, because several players have switched places. So, with that in mind, and I'm going to keep an eye on things that are going on, for example, Italy, we're going to start with the Reichspakt. So, in Germany, we've got Jigsaw. In Austria, we've got Tokon. In Ukraine, we've got Sebas. Sebas has switched from, I think it was Austria. Then in Bulgaria, we've got Yitminir. In Sweden, and this is a player that I'm going to need to look up because I don't remember who Sweden is, we've got Titan Boy. And in... I'm missing a country here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I'm not. I got them all. Next up, we have got the Co-Prosperity Sphere. So we've got the Empress of France in Russia. Previously, Empress of France was in Fentian. Fentian now is Mario. We've got Nitch in Japan. We've got EA Sports in Siam. And then Pro-Australasia player in India. Pro-Australasian was in Siam previously, but is now playing as India. Then we've got the Entente, which we've got Theresa May in Canada. We've got Macaroni in the USA. Remco in Brazil. Stein, the 11th, in National France, and then Australasia, Appy won. Australasia is also a different player. I don't remember who Appy has replaced. And then finally, we've got the remnants of the Third International. Rhino, the sole one still standing in their actual home territories in the Union of Britain. We have got Black Necron in pseudo-Sweden, but actually France. Then we've got the Magnificent, the Rat one in Gothenburg, formerly known as Ireland. And then the SRI and Spain are both not here today because they didn't see any reason to. So Third International is down to 3 players, but everyone else still has 5. Bug reproduction is always a problem. Yeah, which is why it's so important, like, if you do a bug report, make it as detailed as possible. Include screenshots, include a save game if you have one. It makes the job so much easier than just saying, it crashes. Like, literally, reports where it just says, it crashes, we can do nothing with. Because you've told us no information about how to replicate that. Alright, so I'm seeing the German Navy floating around in the Mediterranean, so clearly the Reichspakt are concerned about an Entente strike through the water there. Now, one thing I am going to just do a quick check on is apparently the Union of Britain lost a huge number of capital ships, way more than I actually realised, and that is indeed true. They've lost all of their capital ships. Not just 6 or 7 as I initially thought, they've literally lost all of them, with the exception of their carriers. Their carriers did survive. They're down to just 55 destroyers, 2 heavy cruisers, 4 light cruisers, and then 68 submarines. So the Union of Britain's navy has taken an absolute pasting by the Germans, I believe. And Germany, if we flip over to them, probably has about 1 million naval experience because of all of the battles that they have won. And I am getting these pop-ups again. Alright, done. So flipping over to the Germans, we can see that the German High Seas Fleet is out and about doing its thing with a terrible positioning of only 20% because they're just bringing in so many ships. They're also really low on organisation. And the way that organisation works for ships is that is their combat strength. So combat strength for them is hit points, and then organisation is how effective they are. The lower the organisation, the less damage they do, the more damage they take. Which is why having the organisation buffs through the doctrines is so important, because it basically means that your ships can stay at sea for much longer. And it looks like Germany has just detached a whole bunch of their destroyers from the whopping 56 capital ships that they currently have. That is kind of crazy. And they've detached 18 battleships, which I'm imagining is going to be naval invasion support. They've also got 60 escorts. Currently doing nothing. Oh no, they're in a battle somewhere. Fighting against submarines, no doubt. Yeah, there they are. Also really low on organisation. I think it's because they've just moved them all to the Mediterranean. So clearly some engagements are going to be happening across the Med. We're seeing a whole bunch of German troops, including the German heavy tanks, in Morocco at the moment. We have got American supply raiding off the coast of Morocco, trying to sever the supply lines to the German forces in North Africa. We've got a huge assault by the Germans and Mittler Opens in southern Germany. We've got the American heavy tanks present down here, but they've actually... Oh, they've cut this off. Oh no. That's a huge cut-off. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19 divisions, and they're French divisions. France does not have a lot of manpower. That is a really big problem, and they are going to need to retake these 3 provinces in a freaking hurry, or that one province, though it doesn't look like France has anything in Egypt. What the hell has happened here? Did they all just get trapped on this side? Ouch! And it's showing as oh, it's because they're Brazilian. They are French troops, but they're under Brazilian control at the moment, so this is Brazil's fault. Brazil's the one that's supposed to be microing that. Meanwhile, we are seeing more and more Middle African transports being sunk. We're seeing some German transports being sunk as well. So the American convoy raiding off the coast of Africa under Charles Nimitz is being rather effective at the moment. That is good to see. Meanwhile, we're seeing a hefty Reichspakt assault going in through here. Is there a fleet combat history like there is for Army Theatre? The little button next to their name. No. Not in the same way. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's how you change their alerts. I did not know that. I just learned a thing about navies. I was actually thinking in the lead up to this, like, it would be really nice if you could set alerts for your strike fleet engagements to be a high priority, so that it always pings you if they're actually fighting. And apparently you can. I'll be using that in the future. Crikey, that's a big one. So you can have your submarines on no alert, because submarines just kind of do their thing, but your strike fleets you really want to know about. That's good to know. It's really good to know, actually. Meanwhile, the attack that I would really like to see happening is the Russians against Ukraine. But at the moment, things here have been very quiet. We've got Austrian divisions here on the border. What are those Austrian divisions? Oh no, they're under... Sorry, they're Ukrainian divisions, but they're under Austrian control. So Austria's responsible for the Eastern Front. Is Ukraine the air controller? No. I think Austria is, actually. So Austria's handling air control and also the Eastern Front. What is Ukraine doing? Oh no, sorry, these are... Why are the flags always so weird? These are Ukrainian soldiers, and they are under Ukrainian control. There's just a couple of Austrians there in the north. Okay, I don't know what exactly was happening there. So meanwhile, down here in the Papal States, we do have the Italians, and it's basically just the Italians, are trying to push against the French units in that area. We are seeing a huge amount of raiding from the Canadians in particular. We've got a lot of raiding going on. Destroyers versus destroyers off the coast of Britain, and Canada actually not having an admiral in place for those units. We've got the Americans doing the thing over there, and then we have Canadian submarines going after Bulgarian shipping in that region. Meanwhile, another little cut off there. It doesn't look like, even if the American tanks were going to try and break through to save these units, these guys are basically dead. They're so low on organization, it is not going to take a lot of pressure to kill them off. And it looks like the Entente is just abandoning... Oh no, we've got American tanks. They just cleared. They opened it. They did it. They actually did it. I had basically written these guys off as dead. But the American heavy tanks rushing around from over here, I saw them leave, made it all the way around, and then proceeded to push through the 2 provinces that were needed here. Well, the 1 province, it was just that one, to open this up again. But there are still no regular troops down in the Egyptian Sudan area to help over there. We're seeing a massive number of American soldiers coming along. We've got the American High Seas Fleet also super low on organization, with better screening efficiency, even with the poor positioning, facing off against the submarines. And they are starting to sink some of the subs. I wonder if the subs are going to get a couple... Well, actually, with 86 screening, you're probably alright. That's a 14% chance to hit. Hey Mordred, speaking of community issues and knowing you're a naval expert, can I ask about the DLC preview images? Are you talking about Hearts of Iron 4 DLC preview? In which case, no, because I'm not the Hearts of Iron guy. What exactly do you want to know? Particularly the ones about surface raiding capitals for being given positioning buff when unscreened. As I understand, positioning screening does almost nothing on pure capital ships. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that one either. I was like, okay, that's a really cool idea, positioning buff. Huh. What it should really do is just give a pure screening buff, although that could be potentially quite overpowered for the German High Seas Fleet. So maybe have make a buff where it's you get 20% screening if you don't have any destroyers present, or no screens present, or something like that, or else makes it so you need only 3 screens instead of 4 for your capitals. I don't know exactly how to fix that one. But yes, I'm really unsure about the positioning buff because I don't think it will do anything. It'll increase the effectiveness of your positioning, sure, of your screens, but that still requires you to have screens. In my day job, I'm a programmer. An ideal bug report would give me exactly what you're doing, the program you did, and what you think should be done. Add a save or a log of both, and that would be perfect. Yeah, I'm quite on it when it comes to requesting more information. And whenever I say, hey, we could do bug reports, I always say, please include saves and the context of what you're doing, and also screenshots with great big red arrows pointing at the things that you think are wrong. So we're seeing quite a lot of naval activity in the Mediterranean and around the Mediterranean at the moment. We've got a German... Okay, so the French are actually withdrawing from this position entirely, which is 100% the right decision. And then they basically just need to form a line to try and defend down here. Or heck, even just defend like up here, where you've got a nice little neck choke point. This area doesn't matter that much, except for giving them a naval base. So if you really want to hold on to that, then like defend across here. At least then you're forcing your opponent into the desert, where attrition can become pain, especially if you're actively moving or actively attacking. We have a bunch of Canadian forces coming across. It's actually really interesting how much Co-Prosperity seems to be struggling in Iran. They actually have a unit on the outskirts of Tehran which could win this for them, like, now. And they probably should do that, but because they're not battle planning at all, these attacks just falter. It could also give your opponent a bigger positioning penalty. Now that's true. Although that would just reduce the effectiveness of their screens, and that would only be useful if you were using torpedoes, which German capital ship raiders don't tend to do. They tend to use big guns. Maybe increase like the tracking speed of German big guns. That's not even that historical though. I think, honestly, for the Germans, what they need is like a range bonus. Just give the capital ships a range bonus. And maybe a speed buff. A speed buff when in convoy raiding stance. Is Insulindia falling again? Insulindia has fallen a while ago to the Japanese. So we have the Indians still punching through the south, and it does seem like the Indians have been by far and away the most active, probably to try and stop anyone else from intervening. And in fact, if we go from India's perspective, we are seeing a lot of Austrian troops on the border in Iraq, but they're not actually making any moves yet. Iraq, I'm guessing, yeah, is in the... Right, Iraq fell when the Ottomans fell, I think. Meanwhile, the Papal States are now almost completely dead. At least the territories around Ancona have now fallen. And two Sicilies are starting to feel a bit more pressure, although we do have quite a few French troops just south of the Papal border. So it looks like they're willing to fight on for a bit longer. The Germans in Morocco are being really quite hard pressed by the Brazilians and the French in Morocco. And the Middle Africa sphere is now being pushed by the Americans. So we've got French infantry just kind of holding the line, and then these American heavy tanks doing their thing. But as soon as they start hitting the forest, then eventually the jungles down here, that push is going to become incredibly difficult. Like, I think one of the hardest places to push in the game is right here. This is jungle, it's terrible supply, and it's absolutely festooned by rivers. It is horrible to punch through that area. And eventually it just becomes a huge drain on resources to even try. Oh! Oh! That is a German capital fleet that has 0 screens. And the Americans have noticed it. So these submarines should be going absolutely ham on those guys. Because that's a 100% chance to hit. And yeah, their strength is dropping. They are being torpedoed. And that is 18 battleships. And those things are going to take a while to recover. It's kind of unfortunate there were only 7 subs here, and they were Welt Creek subs. Oh dear. Those things are ancient. No wonder more of the Germans didn't die to that. Received 1 crit. Total damage received 81. Torpedoes 54. We have some... Oh, German East Asian submarines coming in as well. And then the Austrian fleet coming in with a couple of destroyers, trying to screen them, but already that heavy cruiser has taken a pretty hefty amount of damage. It's really unfortunate the Americans have such old submarines. Otherwise, that could have been a very different engagement for the Germans there. Had that been the Irish, none of those battleships would have sailed away from it. None. Meanwhile, we have Spanish troops consistently trying to attack into Copenhagen, but the Bulgarians there don't seem to be in the mood to give up any territory. We have got further pushes by the Italians with Bulgarian heavy mechanized support. These mechanized units are beautiful. They are really good. Better on defense than attack. And they also have overwhelming air superiority. There are a lot. I saw a lot of damage being done by aircraft in that fight. So the Papal States are down to 10 divisions defending Rome itself. So if they attack Rome, which they probably want to do sooner rather than later to stop this organization recovering, then every time one of these units is reduced in organization, they will just die. And there we go, the attack has begun, and they are already making progress. So every time one of these runs out of org, it's dead. And that's one less unit they need to worry about. And we've got some of the German heavy tanks coming in. And yeah, we have aircraft coming in doing damage, although not apparently very many. Oh no, there they are, 189. Close air support, 135. And the damage is starting to tick in, because it doesn't look like the Entente is able to do very much about this, and they do have complete air superiority, 2,500 planes to 0. And there are now 4 heavy tanks, each of them 40 combat width, coming in against these guys, and slowly but surely they are just dying. So Rome is going to fall very, very soon. And then the assault on 2 Sicilies proper can begin. We have Swedish raids going on, we have Ukrainian battle fleet over there. I like how they're being so alert to the naval engagements, actually pinging naval battles. And they have again spotted the German fleet. Oh no, we've seen this from Italy's perspective, they just know where it is. 38 to 76, that seems like way too few escorts. 38 times 4, they should have 152. Yeah, they've got about half as many escorts they need in that fleet. That is a very vulnerable fleet. So, generally you can get away with 3 destroyers for every capital ship. That is like the absolute bare minimum. But honestly, the safe ratio is 4 to 1. If you have 4 to 1, you're generally okay in pretty much any situation. And losing a couple of destroyers to repairs doesn't really otherwise affect you, and your capital ships can just keep going. But 3 to 1, or even 2 to 1, as it basically is there, is asking for trouble. And there we go, the Papal States have now fallen, and the assault on the 2 Sicilies proper can begin. Oh, right, we're seeing this from their perspective. This is somebody pinging the Germans about how isolated their, or how vulnerable their ships were. So that's some good awareness by somebody. Bulgaria actually doing some pretty good work, considering they have a limited number of ships. I've seen Bulgaria involved in a lot of different engagements down here, which is awesome. So Princely Federation has finally really started to shatter the southern front of Iran, and Iran is still holding... Are they getting a lend-lease from someone? Yes. From Denmark, from Italy. They're getting a lot of guns from Italy. From Iraq and from Yemen. Yeah, the Italians in particular have sent them a lot of stuff. So it kind of looks like this Italian Republic is actually going to become a major player, even though they're AI. Meanwhile, the Russians... I don't know what the Russians are doing. They've been so passive. So incredibly passive. Because, like, these guys have just been sitting here this whole time. These guys are actually Chinese, so that's not under their control, and then no real engagement on that front whatsoever. Are they preparing an invasion of America or something like that? I kind of wonder if they are going to be focusing the Entente as opposed to the Reichspakt, although I think that is the wrong decision, because the Reichspakt at this point is so strong. Legation cities are gone. So the legation cities, I think, have just been eaten up by... Nope. They are still here. I guess they're just not an international body anymore? Nope, don't know. Don't you need fewer screens if you use light cruisers? No. Same number regardless. Which is why if you have a large capital fleet, it's much better to use destroyers. The main role of light cruisers is destroyer killers, not screens. Or heavy cruisers. Heavy cruisers and light cruisers is an awesome destroyer killing combo. And if you're doing surface raiding, so one good combination that you can do as Germany is use submarines in the Atlantic and then just have roving bands of 1 heavy cruiser or 1 battleship and 4 light cruisers, and then just have those killing the destroyers that are escorting the convoys. Because without escorts, enemy convoys are just so vulnerable to submarines. Time to pour myself another drink. So Yemen has just fallen. Yemen was one of the people that was trying to support Iran with weapons. They sent about 400. Huzzah! Light cruisers have no capital bonuses. Nope. I feel like they probably should. Like, if a light cruiser is escorting a capital ship, then it probably should count as, like, 2. But for convoys, it doesn't. But I think they're just trying to keep it simple. A screen is a screen. It's always 1 to 4. 1 to 3. But I'm still going to say 1 to 4 because it's a much safer number. But they did drop it because the previous minimum requirement was kind of ludicrous. Right, one other thing I had meant to talk about is at the beginning of the session you will have noticed there was a bit of a delay before we got started with this game, and that is because Third International had invited Venezuela to their faction, which they shouldn't have been able to do. So Venezuela has been designated as a neutral nation, and basically they just exist to serve other people with oil. Third International had invited them and then told them to attack Brazil. Brazil had in turn invaded Venezuela and completely conquered it, both of which are technically rule breaks. So the Union of Britain lost, I think it was 8 civilian factories, and the Entente lost 6. And that's what was changed in the rule break. And the way that civilian factories are removed is, in the save edit, you can just delete factories from states. Just going to double check that. Yes, so the Union of Britain lost 8 and Brazil lost 6. Mostly because they didn't tell the admins that the Third International had broken the rules. What do I want? I want to have that channel. Okay. Empire of Japan just joined the Legation Cities War. Interesting. Oh, probably against Mongolia. So Russia just invaded Mongolia. War for Iran is still ongoing. Two Sicilies, meanwhile, is quickly being swept up by the Bulgarians, with the French defensive forces not really able to do very much. There's a couple of isolated pockets that are just going to get gobbled up and destroyed. Meanwhile, we've got Ukrainian submarines and Ukrainian fleet out and about doing its thing. With its two coastal provinces. One of my favourite surface raiding ships and places cruiser with a single heavy gun to turn them into a capital ship, then every single slot on the top is filled with nothing but light cruiser turrets and destroys nothing but torpedoes.